Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Livia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So good to see you.
So wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, so good to have you in this space and welcome to Grandma's March. It's amazing to have you here. I was really thinking on you and the theme of the year, how much you are connected to everything I do for sure, always, but especially to this. And this year for the Grandma's March, this is the fifth edition. So it's been since 2021. Every year I do it in the month of March, even if it's like, oh my God, I don't have time. I just came back from a long trip. Like I was telling you, Thailand and working, and but every year it just calls me. It's like my grandmother starts like, you have to do it, and it's funny because even if I plan it 1 week 2 weeks before, everybody that I always write is like, yeah, I'm on it. It's always their time. I don't know, it's very intuitive the way I do all this, and it always happens, and
Yeah, it
and
makes
it's good.
sense. The way in which our grandmothers guide us and the way in which you had such a deep connection with yours, I don't know, it's a beautiful way to connect with people and bring people along for this really, I think, really intimate and expansive march.
Yes, it is true. So as I told you, the theme of this year is the nurturing essence of home and water, and home, water, and wisdom. And yeah, the reason for that actually is very connected to me. And as I said, every year the theme comes very intuitive, and I it's almost like what is going on in my life and in the field, and whatever is happening to me is like, okay, maybe it's happening to others as well. We were all connected at the at the end. So you remember, like last year, my house got flooded, and water came into my house, and that really made me reflect a lot about the meaning and the symbol behind home, and being in other people, like all this community that supported me and my husband during this time, and we were in other people's houses, everybody supporting us, and how much water at the same time that it was, destroyed some things, and ruined some things, but it also brought like transformation. It cleaned, we have a whole new house. It brought a lot of memories that we didn't, yeah, before were things in boxes and things like that. So it brought tears, it brought memories, and it's such a powerful element and such a feminine element that is like, how can I relate this to this? But of course it is all related, because I always remember about my grandma's house and my grandma's home, and so it's all connected. And of course, when I say wisdom, is about the grandmother's wisdom, and everything that it means, ancestral feminine wisdom, the connection to community, like the caring of each other. And of course, all this is connected to what you do. And I met you, it's probably what, it's been probably a year, or yeah, right, like already, yeah, more or less,
Yeah.
let's say, right, through Jesse. And so
Mhm.
thank you, Jesse, for this connection. And so of course, I know Leah works a lot with organizations and facilitating different workshops and trainings and supported organizations. And I want you to introduce yourself, right? I don't want to be in that space, but for sure somebody that is always working to bring people together, to make connections, and that's at the core of who you are. And with all the projects, amazing initiatives that you have with the traveling table and the together to gather. And of course, I forgot about the name of your beautiful consultant company that you also have, the Inhuman.
And human, yep.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, and now with all the project of your home, I will love you to share more about who you are. Who is Leah? A little bit of your story, the connection to your grandmas, and yeah, whatever you feel like is connected to the theme of the year and to this project. So thank you for being here, Leah.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's really an honor to be here. And I just love what you're doing and really bringing those stories alive because I think, the more we can kind of ground into that ancestry, it's so valuable. Um, and it resonates with me because honestly, I feel super connected to both of my grandmothers. One I'm named after, and the other just spiritually, I feel so driven by or like guided by. Um, my grandmother, who I feel super driven and spiritually like guided by, um, used to live in Baltimore, Maryland. And um, I never saw myself here, and I ended up in Baltimore, Maryland, working on home. Um, but let me tell you a little bit more about me, and then we'll come back to that. Sorry,
Yes.
go into it. So I am running a consultancy called And Human,
Hmm.
where I am helping people find connection, whether it's in an organization, in a community, or within themselves. I do believe that in order to get the full human experience, which all of ours is unique to us, that we do need to understand and discover connections that like bring those parts of ourselves out. And we go through different chapters where different connections will be reflected in the way that we meet people. And a lot of times we miss that at work, in the workplace, because we're moving so fast and just trying to like produce. But in order to produce well, you need those really deep connections and understanding of like who you're impacting. And same within a community, especially after a lot of migration happened in the pandemic, communities are reshaping, or like during natural disasters like water, um, people move and people come together in different ways. And um, we lose connections that we need to have a healthy community. So, And Human is focused on consulting and coaching. The traveling table is more experiential and facilitating those connections and helping people see that they can connect with folks that they wouldn't naturally connect with, maybe in other circumstances. That's a facilitated experience. And then Together, the card deck that Jesse Sterenschus and I designed to teach the how. So it's the framework for how people volley in conversation, how people spark curiosity and maybe go deeper in conversation if they're not used to asking questions, and then invites people to share more of their story if they're not naturally comfortable sharing and opening up about parts of themselves, which just helps us see each other a little bit better. And yeah, I think my work shows up in a lot of different ways through in-person experiences, through art, through virtual experiences, and it's always evolving, always evolving. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry, I went off on
Yes,
this.
you did. You did. No, and this is a conversation like, okay, it will flow and it's flowing, and that's the idea that you introduce a little bit of who you are. And then talking of who you are, let's go a little bit back in your story, like, okay, you were telling a little bit about Baltimore, why, your grandmothers, maybe like where are you originally from, and you go from there,
Okay.
whatever that flows. But that was perfect.
Um, I'm originally from Virginia, small town
Mhm.
Virginia, and I've lived sort of all over, very nomadic spirit. So even though I've lived in a few specific different places, I've driven around the country multiple times.
Yeah.
I started traveling internationally later in life because I focused on the US first, but I feel like home for me is actually the car. It's like on the road. So the fact that I am rooted in Baltimore is just a very surprising part of my story. So I've lived in Kentucky. I lived in multiple different cities in Virginia. I've lived in Chicago and Denver, and then I moved to Baltimore to move my mom back to be closer to her family. She grew up here,
Yeah.
and the goal was to be here for 6 months, get her settled, and then move abroad.
Okay.
Not what happened. That was in 2018. It is now
Wow.
2024. Um, the longest I've lived anywhere since I graduated high school. Um, there's some interesting things that happened. So when I moved here in 2018, I had never really lived near extended family. So that was a really neat introduction into,
Mm,
oh, I have this embedded community here. When I need help, I actually can ask for it. Where when I've lived in all the different places I've lived, it's not like I didn't have help, it just was different, right?
mm,
Like, you talk about your, how your friends took you in with, the water damage that happened in your home. I think about that a lot actually, and I don't know that I had that for, like, a long-term situation, like, maybe a night or 2, but in other places I lived, I don't know that I would have that same support. Here, um, I kept questioning, "Why am I here? Like, why Baltimore? I don't
yeah.
feel like I fit in, I don't feel like I'm finding, like, my people here, like, I don't feel like I'm finding the outlets that I want out of a place that I live." Not that Baltimore doesn't have it, I just wasn't finding it, but I did have the family, and I've gone through a couple different major, disruptions in life that, like, make me really grateful to be here, and I do feel everyone kept saying, like, my grandmother always used to say that I would really love it here,
Mm.
and the more I stayed, the more I was like, I kinda see it, but I don't know why, like, I could be anywhere in the world, why?
Yes, I get it. But there is something that is like, yeah, you still don't know why, but yeah, still there is something. And it's so good that you pay attention to that because I don't know. Yeah, sometimes we don't pay attention to those,
I mean, like, who yeah,
intuitions. Yeah, yeah.
I think the first time I met you actually, when we talked about some of the stuff, it, like, recentered me because
Mm,
I think at the time I was working on my house and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I need to go somewhere new. I need to be somewhere new. I need to be somewhere sunny and warm and, like, not challenging." Baltimore's a very, like,
mm,
difficult city, and it's also beautiful and creative and all these other things, but, like, I lose sight of that sometimes, and I think you talking about your ancestry kinda, like, throws me back into this grounding that I have here.
mm,
Um, so Baltimore, 2 major things happen, and then, y take me wherever you wanna go in this conversation, but
mm.
one was in 2020, I had a traumatic eye situation where I had to, like, relearn how to use both my eyes together and reconnect my eyes with my brain and, stitches for a very long time. It was really, really, really challenging in ways that, like, I think I'm still learning, and had I been anywhere else other than Baltimore,
Mm.
I don't know how I would have gotten through it. I got through it because my mom is very tied to optometry. My uncle was an optometrist, and
Oh,
I
wow.
think because of the 2 of them being so close by and also so knowledgeable about what I was going through, I had the support I needed to heal, to survive, to reimagine my business, to still have a living, like, I couldn't drive, I couldn't cook, I couldn't there's just so much.
Challenging, I know. Mm,
Yeah, and then the other thing was, I bought a house in 2022, and it's been everything but easy. It's been very hard, very disruptive to my life and to my stability, and, um, again, I think it comes back to family. I really don't know how I would have gotten through some of the challenges here without, like, that, and the the thing that I keep hearing in my mind as, like, I would hit different challenges, different roadblocks was, like, "Just keep going, like, keep your head down and keep going," and, like, I don't know, there's something graceful about my grandmother that kept showing up for me, and, I don't really know how to articulate it. It's just, like, this feeling that I always had that was very comforting and very soothing, um, and again, I don't know what those ties are, I just know they're there.
mm.
Um, and she's all throughout my house. Both of my grandmothers are. They're both, like, displayed throughout my house in
I
different ways.
love that. You can
Yeah.
even show at some point, that would be amazing. But yes, to have this amazing wall, that would be amazing. But before we go there, Going back a little bit on that connection to the grandmothers, and especially that one that you're talking about, that you have that connection, and the reason maybe you are in Baltimore right now. What are the memories that you have from her? Like, like what do you remember growing up and I don't know, being with her? What do you remember about her and anything that comes to your mind that
Um, she was an amazing storyteller. So my mom and I
Mhm.
that like she would not read a book, she would tell us the story. And so we have this tradition when we would spend Christmas up here. I remember being at my aunt's house, sitting on the ground with all the cousins, and she would read, oh gosh, what is the book with the train and the bell? Uh,
Mm.
Cartoon about it probably a decade ago. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on this? I cannot for the life of me think of a story, but it's a children's story.
Yeah,
Um,
I it's like I can picture it, but I forgot the name too. Yeah, no, but it's I
Polar Express or something, like, what is
yeah, probably.
do you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's,
Yeah,
like, train so she had this bell, and she would, like, tell us a story and do all the voices and, like, ring this bell, and
I
it was
love it.
it was so memorable and imprinted in my mind, and listening to her tell stories was really special. She worked at a daycare,
Mhm.
both this daycare, until she was in her 70s, and so when I was young, I didn't go for long 'cause I think I was probably, like, 5-ish when she retired, but I have very, like, vivid, beautiful memories of being there and, like, seeing her. It's so funny because I have this memory of her being very nurturing and creative and loving and, um, I don't know what you think of when you think of, like, this, like, really nurturing grandmother. And my mom, when we compare notes, and my mom was very close to both of her parents. This is her mom, by the way. She talks about how my grandmother it's my grandfather that's actually nurturing. My grandmother's she could be very stern and, like,
Huh,
as a principal of a daycare, people were afraid of her. Miss Mary,
got it.
we called
Mm.
her. And my mom says she remembers when we were young, she wasn't all about, like, the hugging and the touching and the kissing and, like, the things. One of my uncles actually introduced, like, deep hugging into the family when he came home from California. And it just blows my mind because it's not like, I can see it now as an adult. I can look back and go, "Oh, yeah." Like, I could see where she
Uh-huh.
maybe wasn't as nurturing as I remember her being, but I was grateful I had her in my life up until 2017. So I was, I think, around 30 at 20 God, I don't even know how old I was, but in my 30s when she passed
Uh-huh.
away, and, I used to call her for relationship advice.
Yeah, imagine. What a blessing you have, like, yeah, having a grandma you can call for that.
Yeah. She just, I don't know, she just has this wisdom and grounded
Yes.
nature, and if even if she wasn't super, like, chit-chatty, girly, like, nurturing energy, she had this, like she held space. Like, I don't know, I she just
Mhm.
was very sturdy and honest, and I remember I'll tell you this last story and then I'll pause. I remember I had this boyfriend who always had these guy trips and, like, would leave me out of everything, and I really just wanted this, like, companionship and friendship, and I wanted to do everything together because that's what I saw. Like, my grandparents were inseparable for 70 years, and they have a really beautiful story, but I called her and I said, "What would you do if this kept happening? Like, am I overreacting? Do I have false expectations?" And she said,
What did she say?
she goes, "I don't know if it's healthy or not, but if your grandfather goes to the grocery store without me, I'm upset."
I love
I'm
her.
like, "Okay, then I'm fine. Bye. Done."
That's it. I don't need a guy like this.
I just love that she qualified it with, like, "I don't know if it's healthy or not, but this is how I feel." So it was cool moment. And she was funny. I think she was caught off guard that I called her and asked her for this different advice.
Yes.
Um, she wasn't really sure what to do with it, but she always met me where I was and answered my questions and um, really set us up for, I think, success and like what we wanted out of somebody.
Mhm.
Really high standards, but yeah.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. But at the same time, you say, well, she wasn't so nurturing. And so I don't know why. What came to my mind is, what about that letter? Because that letter just stayed in my mind. So somebody that really writes this letter to a granddaughter is like probably she wasn't so this type of person that expresses a lot and hugs, but inside of her,
Mhm.
I'm sure, because yeah, that was her way of nurturing. That was her way of showing
Yes.
love, you know. So tell us a little bit about that letter. Yeah.
I have right now. She's magical. And actually, I think she's like with me right now because 2 times I've looked at the timing on the recording and I've seen
Mhm.
21 and her
Yes.
birthday was the 21st.
Oh my.
Um, so that's just really interesting. I'm gonna say it out loud.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
she was really magical in a lot of different ways, but her storytelling was exceptional. And I'll tell you about the letter, but I'll first lead with when
Yes.
my brother was a screamer and just a wild man. We called him Wild Man. And she wrote a story about the boy who screams.
No kidding. I love it.
And like she sent it to him, just like a little like packet of paper, like little thing. And my mom always says she hopes that she can find it, or I don't know if we still have it anywhere, but she'll never forget that story because she did these cute things for us as kids that made our childhood super special, even though we didn't see her very often. We lived
Right.
2 hours away, so I don't have the same relationship with her as like my cousin who lived across the street has with her. But I had a really special feeling with that. And it's probably because we would get these really special cards and voicemails and letters in the mail. And so to find when I moved my mom, I got the luxury of finding a lot of hidden gems that were tucked away or kept or um, just you know, really precious things that we had, and one of them was this letter that my grandmother had written me before kindergarten started to get me excited about kindergarten and saying how much she wished she could be there with me and that I'm gonna just have this great time because I'm gonna meet people and I'm gonna read stories and I'm gonna go on these adventures, and everything that she ever wrote was very rhymey, like nursery rhymey. Um, but I think that comes from her working in a school for so long, right? Like
Yeah.
she may have been stern and like something that some people were afraid of, but she also was like a mother goose, kind of like, let me
Oh,
get your little ducklings in a row and like I'm gonna tell you this story and that story. And um it was really cute. Like, yeah, that letter. So the letter's on my wall.
yes.
It's framed and it brings me a lot of joy whenever I see it.
Oh, that is such a lovely thing and story, and I love that. I wish I had like something like that to see every day, you know. I love it how you always also took it and make it part of your home, you know, because yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a lovely, memory that you
Yeah.
have.
Do
Yes.
you have like mementos like that from your family or your grandmothers that or even just like visual memories that come back that you hold?
Oh, for sure, all the time. Yes, yes, and small moments or pictures that there are or things that they gave me. You just remind me of something. I have this. I don't know where it is because, of course, my house still a mess, but it survived and from the hurricane. But my grandma used to smoke, yeah, all her
Oh,
life. The
mhm,
reason she passed, but yeah, that wasn't too good. But she smoked all her life. So with all the cigarette, like the packets of cigarettes,
mhm.
inside of these packages or the little packets, there are like this aluminum. It's almost like a paper of like
Mm,
aluminum foil paper I don't know
Okay.
if you, yeah, I never smoked, but I remember because of my grandma. So
Yeah, I remember
she was very artistic. You know, she will be very manual and with her hands, everything she touch, she will do something with her hands. So with
Hmm.
that paper, during all her life, I don't know how many years, she used to do a little ball and then she will put another paper and do, and this ball became, I would say probably like this size, and
Mhm.
it's heavy because it's pure metal, like it's all aluminum and it's like this.
Wow.
So I remember like all going to her house. I was very close to her and she was always like sitting somewhere. She was always sewing or embroidering and she was always doing something, but she also was doing the bowl. And I was always so fascinated. And I was telling what is that ball? And she's like, no, I don't know. I'm just playing with it. You know, I'm just doing this because I love, I cannot stop. I need to be doing something. And then she would start saying to me this was a magic ball. And I was like, oh my God. So at some point, she knew it was like something I was always very curious, and she gave it to me. And so I have this ball, and it is, you know, I have it in, well, I used to have it in my house. And now that just to complete the story, the day of the hurricane, one of the things that, because we had to evacuate, I took that ball and I put it in I remember I put it in my backpack of work. So we left, and then, you know, for some weeks, of course, and months that we were out. But then I had to travel for work, and I went through the security checkpoint, and I was stopped. And then, like, two policemen came, and they were like, "What do you have in that suitcase?" And I was like,
I
"I
don't
don't
know.
have anything." Oh my God. I don't have anything. I promise I don't have anything. And it's like, are you sure? Do you have a weapon or something? Because of course this metal thing, I forgot completely that I put that thing in my in my backpack for work, you know. And then they took it out, and when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, they are gonna throw this thing away, and I, no way. And I, like, my eyes were in tears, and this guy, he looked at me and he says, what is this? And I said, this is from my grandmother. And I said, the truth is that this happened with the hurricane. This is from my grandmother. She made it. I know that's not harmful. And that he passed it again through the machine.
Mm.
He looked at me and he said, well, this is your grandma's. You need to have it. And he gave
Oh,
it to me and nothing happened, but you know, that's great. So it got saved from the hurricane. But you see, there's these little things that, yeah, yeah.
but, like, how special though, who knows what that ripple effect of sharing that story, right? Like, you just told him this is from my grandmother, but you didn't like share all the things, and then that you had it because you're evacuating from the hurricane, and so it's in your stuff. And who knows, that could have made him go home and like
Yeah.
think about
When
his.
I told him grandmother, this guy like connect, you know, like
Mm,
that word of grandmother, it produces something in people, you know, because he saw my eyes. He saw, like, when I say grandmother, he's like, no, 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 this, you need to have this.
I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it's like that memory, that physical memory, mentioning your grandmother and that moment also helped you connect with someone that you might not have ever connected with otherwise. And I just think that's like such a testament to you, and also
Mhm.
like why the things that you're doing are so beautiful. And I don't know, I think that's really special. Really
It's true.
special.
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, in these conversations, also some memories come to me, and I love that because all it's not a two, it's a two-way, you know. It's not only like listening to your story, but let's go back to your story. I'm curious about now. Okay, you were talking about you got into Baltimore and you were talking about the house. So
Mhm.
why this house? Why it's been so painful, and what was the idea behind the house? And now I think you are in another chapter with the house, and so tell us a little bit of the story because it's very connected also to the theme.
Yeah, I've always loved space, like physical spaces. I definitely think there's a part of me that wanted to be an interior designer at some point
Mhm.
on our structures. I've never been in love with like new design. I've always been in love with old and like the characteristics of old homes. And I don't know, I guess I got on this kick of like I want one of my own that I can create and share with other people. Um, I never thought I'd actually own a home because I'm so nomadic. I never thought it made sense, and maybe like scarcity mindset, I never thought I could afford it, um,
Mm.
or that I deserved it. I don't know. There's a lot there to unpack that I haven't gone through yet, but this house found me. So I stopped looking for a house sometime around when my eye stuff was happening. Um, I was ready to go again. I needed to get out of Baltimore. I needed to be somewhere different. I didn't know where, what. So I stopped looking in Baltimore, turned off all of my notifications, and I was flying back from a workshop I did with Jesse
Mhm.
in San Francisco in 2022, and I got a notification for this house, which is weird because I turned everything off. I got a notification for this house, and it has a detached property. And I was doing the dinner series at the time, so I was
Yeah.
traveling at the table, and I was thinking about like that might be interesting to have a permanent location for the dinner series. I don't know if that's what I want, but that could be really interesting. And then there were just elements to this house that were capturing to me that were just like, oh,
Mhm.
shareable. It's not too big, but it's not too small. This is a space that like I could see people in, and there were things that were undone in the house that like pulled some of the character away, but you could see that it was still underneath it there. It's a 1930s house, and
Wow.
yeah, it was very mm, a little boring when I bought it, but
Got it.
I felt like I could pull it apart. I thought that I was walking into a home that would be just cosmetic updates, like be the fun stuff, the stuff I like to do, which is like paint, decorate,
Right.
whatever. I love building, but I've not built a home before. I've helped my mom with some renovations, but we had contractors do a lot of the vision. Like we had the vision, they did the thing. Um, so this house, I didn't really have the budget to do what ended up having to be done.
Got it.
Everything I would like the first thing I did was replace the floors. I thought I would just rip off the cheap floors they put down and use the original floors. No. That's a whole other story, but like it's just like everything happened. There were like layers and layers
Mhm.
or there was a hole from my kitchen to the outside. Like you could see my whole wall was wet, had been wet for a long time behind the backsplash, and you could see that like outside from the inside. That was a horrible discovery. Um, I don't know. I don't even remember all the moment. Oh, I have heated front stairs. Like my front stairs are brick and there's radiant heat that runs through them. And I couldn't understand how my electric bill was so expensive every month. And it's because a year later I learned that I had these heated stairs that had been on for an entire year. So expensive.
1 year.
One whole year. One whole year. I mean, like, my bill was, like, $500 a month, and I was like, "How?" Like, I don't
Where
turn
is this coming from?
yeah,
Yes.
I was like, "I don't turn on the heat, like, I don't turn on the air conditioning, like, what how is it $500? What? My house isn't big enough for that." It's because this stupid heated stair anyway, it was just, like,
Oh my god.
like, the switch for it was, like, in the weirdest spot, like okay, so the house has just been a mystery, and, yeah, I don't know, like, I felt like everything that I was doing, there were roadblocks that were like, "This is not the house. This isn't where you're supposed to be. This isn't supposed to happen." But there are other things that happen so easily, like, my space out back, I flipped it in a month for the dinner series when I met this man who was gonna produce it, and so, like, that was just, like, magic. It just happened, and it was quick, and it's beautiful. And then there are parts of my home that came together really easily, sort of off of necessity, again, of sharing space, of bringing people together, giving people a place to like push their creativity, be curious, and like
Mhm.
discover some part of themselves. My bookcase, I did a built-in because I felt like that wall needed to be a big built-in bookshelf, and it's the thing I kept talking about since the time I bought the house. And every time I did the math, I was like, with all the renovations I'm doing, I can't afford to build this built-in. And when my uncle passed away 2 years ago, and my aunt and my cousins came to clear out the house, um, he had this huge wood collection in the basement, and they're like, "Please take it, like, do something with it." And so my
Oh,
book is
wow.
his wood. His
Wow.
it's yeah, it's his. It's
'Cause wood is so expensive nowadays. Well, I know.
so
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
Like, a
Oh,
month.
wow.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So there's, like, things like that that happen, and
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
um, I got really woo-woo and did a clearing of the house because I just felt like the house was never gonna be finished.
Yeah.
And the woman that did the clearing told me all about Louise, which is the name of the house that I
That's the
have.
name of the house?
I used to call her
Oh,
Louise because I live on Louise Avenue, and,
ah.
uh, I call her Moody because she's very moody, like, you never know what you're gonna get. And then when I did the clearing, she was like, "You might wanna rename her, she's ready for a new name." So, she's Miss Louise, Curious Louise, whatever you wanna call her. But the lady told me, she was like, "She's just tired, she's been through a lot, she's been kinda, like, used and abused." It was an assisted living home before I bought her. Um, so she's been through a
Mm.
lot of, like, change and usage and, used in ways that she wasn't originally built for. Um, and she's 100 years old, right? She's built in 1930. So, just been through a lot, and I needed to kinda, like, slow down and, like, bring her along and honor her as opposed to, like, force her. And then things wrapped up, and now I get to actually share her with people, and, um, the people that use the backspace when I'm not using it, I get the most lovely humans coming through the house, like, I've had people host blessing ways in my backyard, which I didn't know what that was before they came, and that's a beautiful, like, ancient tradition for the African culture in welcoming new moms into motherhood, and I've had really special, like, dinner dates happen back there, and this weekend, there's a tea party that's happening out there for, like, a 30th birthday party, like, it's just really special,
Oh,
the
wow.
to interact with and meet. There's a woman who's actually using my living room in May for the women that she works with. She focuses on women who don't have mothers anymore.
Hmm.
And she's doing like a pre Mother's Day motherless, like, um, she calls it something so beautiful. I blanking on what it's called, but she's giving them this beautiful celebration to honor their mothers who no longer are here and, like, the legacy that they get to carry on in honor of their moms, and I don't know, it's so cool,
My
like,
God, I didn't know all these things were happening in your house. Well, yeah. So now you call it Miss Louise? That's yeah.
Miss Curious Louise.
Miss Curious Louise. So wow. So as soon as you finished the house, you started like, okay, this house is going to be to create spaces for connections. That's what you do. You not celebrate or wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I just think we need other places to be.
Yeah, and I love that. I was thinking here. I love how much you bring of that idea that a house is a being, has a soul of its own and its own
Yeah,
energy, and yeah, because it's like I'm loving this, and it's true, when you get to a space and you feel it, but definitely, yeah, it has a yeah, it is a being and can be named and has many years
yeah,
that is there. I just love that.
yeah, I'd be curious as you're, like, redecorating, reconnecting with your home, like,
Yes.
out of it and, like, what it wants, right? Like, silly example is I'm not a pink person, just not part of my
Mhm.
color rotation. This house has so much pink throughout it. Like the whole my stairs are pink, my fridge is pink. I have a pink like accents in every room. That is not something I ever walked into a house and was like, I want a pink house. This house is very pink. I just wanted it. It was like, yep, we're pink here.
Yeah, of course, Miss Louise wanted pink, so there you go.
Gotta give Miss Louise what she wants.
I love it. Oh, that is so beautiful. So where do people can find Miss Louise and your house? And yeah, if they want to celebrate, like they're already doing it. Like
Yeah,
you're mentioning about all these moments and special things that are happening in that space, which is so beautiful.
thank you. So I am on Peerspace.
Mm-hmm.
I use Peerspace for booking. They can find it through my Instagram mostly.
Okay.
It's not on my website or anything like that quite yet, but yeah, if they're in Baltimore, they can find it, and I can share the links with you too. But
Yeah. Is
they,
in the Lia James Instagram?
yes, yes. Sorry,
Yeah, because I have them. I have your Instagrams. I know you have all this there. Yes, I want to share them with everybody.
yeah,
So you can find Leah James, and of course, I want you also to share a little bit of the traveling table and the Together to Gather. But that's where you can find Leah, whoever is watching, and yeah, because oh my God, everybody should have access to you and the amazing things that you are doing.
thank
So
you.
sure, here they are. Yeah.
Um, Together and the traveling table are all interrelated with everything we've talked about. The traveling table came about because in 2021, I think it was, yeah, one of the many times that I've left Baltimore and come back. Um, I was healing from my eye surgery and like relearning how to do everything. And I was like, I just need to go where I know I feel at home, which is traveling and in my car and driving. And at that point, I had started re-driving again, but I couldn't drive for long without,
Mhm.
I was just getting really tired and my face hurting. Whereas I used to drive for like 12 hours by myself, no problem. Like I loved it. It was just, I come alive when I'm on the road. Um, I feel really grounded when I'm on the go. I feel really alert and aware and all the things. So I decided to pack up this slab of wood that I was dreaming of making a table, put it in a trailer, hook it to my Subaru, and I was just going to go and I was going to see, can I invite people from different backgrounds, strangers who wouldn't know each other to a table and have a meal with me. And it was my way of reconnecting with the world. Like I didn't know how to connect in this new form that I was
Yeah.
existing in. And it worked. Like people showed up, people connected, people were curious and like, what the heck is this?
I love it.
And together,
So how did you before you go to together, how did you do it? Like you started posting it somewhere? So how people got attracted in different ways? You were like word of mouth or yeah.
I would just like show up. Honestly, like I had this trailer on a Subaru. It was too heavy for the Subaru. It was a bad idea. So much was bad about it. Like going up the mountains in Utah with it, so dangerous. Like I was going like 30 miles per hour with like strong winds and this tiny little thing. And yeah, it was a bad idea. But I think that in itself made people curious because they're like, what are you doing? And then, if you remember back to 2021, this is when we still didn't have vaccines. And,
Yeah.
um, some people were for masks, some people weren't for masks. And coming from Baltimore, where it was a heavily masked city and like very activist friendly, to driving across the country and kind of having my eyes open about like all the different ways people were approaching the pandemic. I hadn't been inside of a restaurant or inside of a bar, inside of an establishment really since the pandemic. So I had a lot of culture shock. And I
Mm,
think all of those things played a role in people like asking me a lot of questions. I was used to asking all the questions. They were asking me, like, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? And
yeah.
do you need a tour guide? Like, let's connect with people. And so I just met really interesting people because I was personally just really struggling to figure out where I belonged in the world. Like I really was so lost in ways that I didn't even realize, and I probably looked at like, my face was probably screaming at people because of how many times I was approached by strangers, and, that's really how it happened, like, in all honesty, like, I didn't post about it, I really don't have any pictures or video from it, like, I have very little documentation, which is also unlike me. Um, I don't have a lot to, like, point to and go, "This is what I did." People just showed up. They were in my path and, like,
Got it.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's really just serendipitous. Like, I don't
It
know
is.
any other way to do it or to say it. It just
I
happened.
love it. I love it. And now that you have the house that I remember you mentioned originally, you were thinking maybe, oh, that would be nice to have a space to do the dinners here. Are you planning to do that? Do you think about doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've I've done several dinners. I in 2023, I did a lot of dinners in the backspace. We filmed some of it, and then I sort of paused. I needed to recalibrate. I needed to figure out, like,
Mm.
what was my goal? Was I trying to be a dinner series? Was I trying to be a learning tool? Was I trying to do it for other people? You know, like, I just needed to, again, set my intentions and figure out what my goal was. And now that I feel like the house is done, I feel like more centered and I know who I am again and what I'm doing with it all. So yes, I will start having those dinners again. Mixture of doing it here and other places, but I'm excited to invite people over and host again.
That would be amazing. Would
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to participate in
I
one
was
of
gonna
those
say
dinners one day.
me
Actually, I
too,
need
to
to go to your house and
I need
yeah,
to
see
hear.
that. Yes.
I need to hear. And I also would love to come do one at yours. You have such an amazing community and like,
Yes.
the people that you feel like you're home during your time away from home. I
Yeah.
would love to have all of you around the table.
Yes. Yes, that would be amazing. Yes, it's true. It's true. You have to come here to Tampa too, and we can do one. One
Yeah,
of those dinners. That would be amazing.
I would
Yeah.
love that. So Together is all part of it.
Yes.
As I was traveling around and talking to different people and doing some of the work that I do with facilitation and consulting, I kept noticing that there are people that kept missing each other. Like, there's either people that ask a lot of questions and don't have time to, like, share,
Mm.
or people who share naturally but don't ask questions, and they just, like, miss each other. And then there's also this really interesting thing that was happening, and I think it still does happen. I feel like I've done a lot of it actually on this, so sorry. Where people monologue as opposed to dialogue,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I
Mm.
think it really became a thing with Zoom, right? You're so used to muting, unmuting, so you're just
Oh,
quiet.
yeah. Yeah, just like, or pretend that you're listening. Yeah.
Right, right. So the monologue happens, like, which is, like, kinda what I've done on this call, which again, that's sorry, I apologize for that. Um, I rather prefer, like, dialogue where it's, like, very much volley back and forth,
Mhm.
and I connected with Jesse, and I was like, "Hey, look, there's this situation happening, and I think we could solve it with cards. I really wanna do cards. It's also something that would help with how the traveling table is facilitated. Like, here are some things, like, I ask these questions and, like, whatever." So she was able to say, "Okay, based on this, here are some frameworks we could use," or like, how do you, she asked the prompts that, like, pulled it together.
Yeah.
And it's just this beautiful co-creation card deck.
So good.
Um, it's a 2 deck card game. One deck is the story starters, and the others are curious cards. And it's the idea that you teach people how to ask questions, how to go deeper in storytelling, and how to find each other and sink into each other in conversation.
It is amazing. And actually, I've been part of one of those, to gather
Yeah.
how can we call it gatherings that you do sometimes in coffee shops or in different venues and places. So I went up to St. Augustine and meet Leah and Jesse, and that was amazing. It is magical what happens. You will never like imagine, okay, it's just some people that get together and there are some cards, but they really sparkle something in people to start really connecting in a more deeper way. Yeah, because if not, you're just there. Oh, hello. Yeah, the weather is nice. Where do you live? What do you work? But that's it. But then, yeah, that really helps a deeper connection, and that's what really people need these days. Everybody's so lonely. Mm.
They are lonely, and I mean, it's such a simple thing, right? But we take it for granted.
Right.
It's not something we can just check off, right? So, like, I don't know. I think with all the travel that you do, you must connect with so many different types of people. Like,
Mm.
do you have a trick that you kind of sew through when you're trying to connect with people?
Yes. I guess what helps me a lot is because I'm very curious, and definitely I want to ask questions and know everybody's stories, and you know a little bit of my story. But like, my dream at some point when I was growing up as a teenager was, because I was an exchange student and met people from all over the world in that time. It became it became my dream. Like, I want to go to each of these people's houses to see how they live, what they eat, how they. So I'm very, and that curiosity is really what helps create those connections. And even when I'm sitting to somebody that I don't know next to in an airplane, sometimes I'm tired and it's like, I don't want to talk to anybody today. It's not like I talk every time or I make questions, but when I'm curious, I really mean it, and I end up doing friends and connections, and yeah, so that helps. And no matter the culture, people are so open anywhere, and no matter if you don't speak their own language, there's ways to communicate. Yeah,
Mhm. But
yeah.
that's the trick. You have to be open, right? Like, you have to be the
Of
curious.
course, you have to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because otherwise, like, you're not gonna
Yeah,
find.
otherwise it's not happening. You have to be genuine, and I think we all humans, we feel what somebody approaches in a genuine. You're being genuine. You just want to connect, or we're just when there is an interest behind, or we just want to bother somebody. No,
Yeah.
so
So you
yeah,
just keep going. You're like, "Hey, another person,
yeah,
person." I love that. I
yeah,
love
yeah, yeah. That
I
is
hope
cool.
I hope that, like, I'm sure the people that you capture in these conversations probably have some curiosity too, but I really hope that they feel inspired to, like, ask other people questions or, like, I don't know, embrace their curiosity and know that it's not a bad thing or an invasive thing.
Right, it's true. It's true. Leah, this has been amazing. Is there anything else you want to share that comes to your mind related to the theme of the year, your grandma's? Um,
Just that I'm really grateful for you. I'm grateful that every time I connect with you, I'm reminded how important it is to be connected to our ancestors and especially our grandmothers and that feminine energy. And I think both my grandmothers were very like strong women. So they definitely had the masculine and feminine energy. Um, and I don't know that I would think about it as much as I do when I'm connected to you. Like, you bring it out, and I'm just really honored to know you and grateful. And what you're producing is very needed and important. So thank you.
oh, thank you so much. And I don't know if you want to, but is it possible that you show us a little bit of the wall that you showed me? I would love that. Everybody needs to see that house and want to go there and do their celebrations there. And how much grandmother's love and is in there.
Oh, thank
Oh,
you. Um,
yay.
a little bit of a jaunt. So hang on. Let me make it down my.
Yeah.
I love how much you love my wall. Thank you so
Look at
much.
how beautiful. Yes.
Okay.
Look at that, what she created. Isn't that amazing?
This is it's my family wall, and there's so much of different parts of my family on it, but this is my grandmother. Oh, there's such a reflection. There she is.
There
She's
she
so
is. What
beautiful.
what was her name? Just to name her.
Mary Elaine.
Mary Lane? Okay.
Mary Elaine. And
Mhm.
then my other grandmother who I'm named after, this is Aurelia,
Oh, look at
Aurelia
that.
James.
Beautiful.
She went by Ree. I go by Leah, so different parts of the name. But yeah,
Yes.
there's different things of theirs all throughout the house. But
So that
this,
is that is the bookshelf that you did with the wood of your uncle. Look at that. Amazing.
And then, thank you. And then this is the letter that I was telling you about that she wrote.
Yes.
My kindergarten, like wishing me off to happy kindergarten.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
So
Oh,
many special things in this house, really. Yes.
thank you for giving me space to talk about it. It means so much to me, and it's such a special reflection of my life. And I just really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you for being open and sharing your story, sharing your house, in this space. I love it. And I hope many people go there and celebrate and have special moments in that very special place that you created. So thank you so, so much for being here today. And I hope, of course, this is not the last one. This is the first of many, many, because I know we're always connected and trying to see what else we're going to do. And thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
Come
much.
visit anytime and come hang out.
I know, I will for sure. And
Mhm.
also come here
I
to
will.
Tampa. We need to bring that table here and start doing those traveling table dinners as well. Everybody needs that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. Well, thank you, Leah. It's been a pleasure. And thanks, everybody, to watching us and keep watching Grandma's March and to the next one. Have a good afternoon or good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Take care. Bye bye.